perhaps we weren't exactly fair the last time we reviewed the SLS. There was good reason for that, though. It was because the SLS was, frankly, a sledgehammer of a car with one incredible engine. It was very difficult to drive quickly, and not what you might call in a fun way. But now, there's a new one. This is the SLS AMG GT, and starting this year, it's replacing the standard car in the US. They've gone through and retuned the suspension to improve its limit handling, reprogrammed the transmission to make it shift faster, and then they gave it more horsepower. Not because it needed it, but because, well, that's just what AMG does. The extra 20 horsepower didn't show itself during acceleration testing, where the SLS reached 60 in 3.7 seconds and the quarter mile in 11.7 seconds at 124.5 miles an hour, essentially tying the last SLS we tested. The same goes for braking. The GT took 107 feet to stop from 60 miles an hour. The big differences came around our figure 8. Where the last SLS would slide on turn-in, the GT was more stable, allowing it to carry more speed on corner entry. That extra speed lasted throughout the corner, evident by the GT's higher average lateral G. While the handling numbers are impressive, they don't illustrate the effort that the GT requires. It has great difficulty with traction under throttle, no matter how carefully you apply it. I've just finished a lapping session with the SLS AMG GT, and you can see its lap time here. Now you may be asking, where's Randy? Why isn't he driving? Well, he's not here today. He definitely would be faster, no argument there. But I'll tell you what it's like for the normal person to drive an SLS at the limit. It's hairy. It requires a lot of effort, a lot of concentration. The peculiar thing is the last SLS took a lot of concentration, a lot of planning around corners. You had to carefully modulate your braking, your throttle, to get the thing around the corners quickly. And with this car, it doesn't seem much of it has changed. I will say the braking performance is very, very nice. You have very good pedal control, and you feel like you can stop the car always within reach of where you wanted to stop initially. That said, the suspension tweaks that Mercedes has done to the rear, I'm not sure exactly what's happening there, because the original SLS was an extremely loose car on throttle. You didn't really know when it was going to step out, and when it did, it happened like a binary situation. It was like you're going fine, all of a sudden the tail's out, and when it's out, you need very, very quick hands and very careful throttle control. This car is still the same thing. It may be a little less like that, but still, when this thing loses grip, it goes very, very quickly. The way it drives, though, is so strange, because you look at this car from the outside and you see its long nose. I mean, from the interior, this hood looks like it ends in Texas, but it doesn't drive like the way it looks. You imagine this is a front engine, rear drive car. It's going to have a front weight bias. It's going to have most of its weight on the front axle. It should feel like a muscle car. It doesn't. It, in fact, has a rear weight bias. And so it drives kind of like a mid-engine car. And so that's why when the rear tires slip, the whole car goes very quickly, because that's what mid-engine cars tend to do. Chassis aside, though, this engine, this engine is awesome. The sound it makes is absolutely phenomenal. When you're hard on the gas and you grab a big downshift, it gives you just the most satisfying bark from the throttle. It revs instantly and has this burble and crackle and pop. It's just intoxicating. Listen to that. And it has this wonderfully high 7,200 RPM redline, and it just gets sweeter and sweeter up until that point. Oh, downshifts are so beautiful in this thing. What I love about the SLS is that it is unquestionably a supercar. It hits all the criteria, which to me is, it's something you lust after. It's something that gives you aspiration. It's something that just immediately draws you in through some sort of gut instinct. And I think the most crucial part about this car that does that is, well, of course, the engine, but also the exterior styling, which is just so cartoonishly exaggerated in every sense. It's like the standard old SLS Roadster has just blown up and been multiplied by 300%, expanded out. Old Roadsters never felt this big. This thing feels massive. There's just so much car everywhere with the hood way out there. And you look back, and even though we're basically sitting on the rear axle, it seems like there's a whole nother 6 feet of car back there. The interior space is massive, although when I had my helmet on, I kept banging it against the roof here. It is cartoonish, but that's what supercars should be. It does that very well. The SLS remains a conflicted car, with dazzling sheet metal and an intoxicating engine note. Though more controllable than last year's model, its chassis retains an inelegance, especially under throttle, and it requires extraordinary restraint from its driver. Yet the engine doesn't want moderation, and it's easy to slip under its spell. When you do, you'll find yourself spending the rest of the day power sliding. In this sense, the SLS is as glorious as it is clumsy. It makes you wonder, does it matter when it looks and sounds the way it does?